finish with public comment, because I want to follow up on what you're
Okay,
asking, so I
that
could understand it
was
better.
kind of forming, so I just want to go ahead and ask the
I'm
question.
glad you did. It's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
I might mention too, this thing, there were a number of changes that came along. The water property, it looked like we were not gonna be able to access it or not gonna be able to develop this from our subdivision. And so, yes, we considered either developing or selling that wooded strip that we've talked about. And then when it became clear that they were not going to be able to develop it from Mount Vernon Road, then Mr. Water pitched it back to us. And so it's kind of been back and forth in terms of whether or not that strip, that wooded strip, would serve as access or be needed as access. So anyway, it was a comment.
Yes, would anyone else like to speak? Dr. Russell, come on up. Don't need to apologize. We're here to hear from everybody.
Ron Russell, 1912 Pecan Grove. My question, going back to the fire marshal and we've read those rules too, and with all these trees that Dr. Max's lot is damaged through there that are so important to the neighborhood that he's preserving, supposedly, the balls have been washed out for however, God knows how many years those trees have been there and been washed out. And as we go up the neighborhood, I would say more the age of the homeowners are there. If one of those tree balls falls down and we don't have another access out, and it could be Dr. Max or his family or somebody else that's back there with a fire truck or ambulance that can't get in if we don't have another access road out. I mean, I wouldn't want to live back there. I mean, the traffic impacts me more, but I got a better chance of getting out of the neighborhood than Dr. Max and his wife do. If a tree falls down, if ambulance needs to go back there to get them, if one of these trees from all the water that everybody's talking about, and the fire marshal code is there for a reason, I'm just wondering, is there any rule that does apply to Dr. Max? I know, I wouldn't want to be back there, if I couldn't get the fire truck back in there. So, I'd like to hear, the real fire marshal say, that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Scott Eves. I live at 1720 Pecan Grove. A couple of reasons I know that we have a committee like yourself, and that's appointed, and thank y'all for serving, is so that rules will be followed, in my opinion. I had a question regarding permits and what allows an individual to move forward with construction without permits. That's something I'd like for somebody to think about when you're making a decision here. Also, I don't know where the actual time, and I kind of missed some of that from the beginning. The first reason we were here regarding the zoning, but a draining analysis, I don't know that's been submitted. I'd like for Dr. Max to talk a little about that again. I think he was hesitant. I don't know if he was hesitant or didn't understand the question, or if y'all did, but a draining analysis is really important, not only for discussion regarding zoning, but for this particular one as well. Traffic study analysis, I just would like for us to relook at that again if we have time. Maybe it's not tonight. The canopy and tree survey, I'm still wondering, I know we have residents here that are just not clear of why there are, I don't know how many trees. Entire acres of trees. I'd just like for us to discuss that. I don't know if we can discuss that or request that. So I'm going to officially request that, please. The last thing would be that there are 22 homes in Pecan Grove. Could somebody correct me if that's wrong? I counted 22. And Mr. Scott, thank you for your point regarding that. That was going to be my...
There's a road that comes in
Yeah, so platted in Pecan Grove subdivision is 21. Is that correct? 22. There's, regardless, it's over the, it's
Well,
regardless.
whether it's 20 or 21 or
Thank you.
22, we're over the number that would require a second entrance to the neighborhood. If you add these 11,
Gotcha,
that was my point.
gotcha.
40 homes currently.
Yeah,
Okay, well, it's still gonna be 31 to be over the number.
right.
So
Thank
whether
you.
it's 20 or 22, or if somebody needs to pull out a
Right.
tax map and count them all,
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, we're over the number.
Right. Thank you all for your time. I think you all can see what our concerns are. But I really do appreciate it. There's a lot more here than we have time for tonight, but thank you very much.
I need the other map. Is there anybody else who would like to speak regarding this application? All right. Would the developer like to respond to any of the remarks just made?
I think I said pretty much.
All right, sir, thank you. This closes the public portion of this application review. We are now open for committee discussion. We've already done development services perspective on this application. Is there further discussion or questions? I've got a question for staff. And thank you, Mr. Davis, because I honestly, I was blissfully ignorant until you brought it up. As I understand it, there is a requirement in subdivision or housing area with 30 homes or more for there to be 2 points of ingress and egress.
Actually, it's the the International Fire Code.
Understood, which the city has adopted.
Right, that's right. At
Now-
30 houses or 30 lots, it leaves it up to the fire chief, not the fire chief, but the fire marshal, to make that determination based on the circumstances. So that is a valid point.
That's a discretionary call.
Correct.
At what point does it become mandatory? Is it a higher number, 40, 50?
I'll be honest, I'd have to defer to the fire marshal on that.
Understood. The developer stated at this hearing that the matter has been discussed with the fire marshal and that a preliminary approval has been given.
That's my understanding.
That's your understanding as well as a member of the staff.
Do we have any written documentation of that?
No, we do not.
Presumably that would have to be done or documented in some way if there were approval and the final plat were submitted to the city.
That is correct.
Can we even vote on it if that is a question?
I think you can make a recommendation for an amendment or make a recommendation that it be further reviewed.
What do you mean, we can make a recommendation for it to be reviewed, like table it and then require that it be further reviewed?
Yes, ma'am.
The tabling could also be, even though the city fire, the fire marshal may have, the table can also include, he has to lower the number of lots to be
That's
developed,
correct.
to get it under 30.
I'm not a fire marshal and I don't intend to question his discretion, but it is a significant issue.
Well, the other thing I think we have to consider too is a council, does this set a precedent? So what about the next one that comes up that may go to the fire marshal and may or may not get that same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Understood. Let me understand in terms procedurally, in terms of what is within our purview. We can table the matter because of this issue regarding the number of homes. As a factual matter, is there any dispute about how many homes there actually are? I think the developer acknowledges 31. I think residents have stated between 30 and 32, which applies either way. So the matter could be tabled pending resolution of that before we vote on it, or can we vote on it and make a condition of it that that matter be resolved later? I'm trying to see what we can or can't do.
We do have our good counselor in the present tonight. I would have to defer to him to give
Understood.
you
I don't mean
an
to make
answer
Ben
there.
work tonight, I apologize. I don't
Not
feel
to
any
me.
sense of urgency, but I can't speak for my fellow committee members. I was blissfully unaware of this potential issue until tonight. I do think it needs to be addressed. Again, if it's a matter of discretion for the city and the fire marshal is comfortable with it, I would tend to be as well. Having said that, though, I don't feel that I have enough here to go on to pass on approving this without something in writing, perhaps from the fire marshal saying, A-okay.
And I don't like setting a precedence for something, just arbitrarily. Because like Mark has said, what's gonna happen the next time something comes down the road?
I want to
Lord.
allay any perceptions that this thing is moving forward or that anything is being done for one person that wouldn't be done for another. Everything should appear to be done fairly and above board for all concerned. Again, thanks, Scott, really.
Yeah.
It was a great question. It's something I had not thought of, but I do think it's something we need to consider, in my humble opinion, something we should consider as a committee.
So even if we decide to table it pending review and determination for 2 entrances versus 1, should we talk about any of the other items that we may have? Any other issues with the subdivision itself?
I would suggest if we were going to table the matter, let's go ahead and present all the things that you would like to be addressed so that we can do that in one.
One swoop.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the only thing we are hearing that may hold this up is the fire marshal issue.
Well, what about the location of the road? If the location of the road is where it's at strictly because it's the most economical for the developer, and are we supposed to ignore 20-something people, homeowners, just because we're trying to save the developer money?
is there a use by right that he can put?
Like, he has to put this road in this spot if apparently there's been serious discussions of putting it in another spot. Are we bound to, well, we have to put the road here if there's another option that apparently was pursued fairly far along?
Sure. The only other issue that I am aware of as far as the bridge goes, I believe MDEQ would have to approve that location due to that being a blue line stream. But that is a preliminary assessment based on it being a blue line stream. So I'm not sure what their decision would be there as to whether or not you could place a bridge.
Or to what level? I mean,
Uh,
I've been involved in some projects where it went over some major tributaries and they're big, they're required.
Well, they may be a big requirement, but it's still a established neighborhood over here, and one person more or less trying to find the easiest way to build the neighborhood. And that's kind of,
Yeah, that would be correct, but that doesn't address now what we're contemplating. If the fire marshal said there has to be 2 access, he moves the access off of Mount Vernon instead of Pecan Grove, you still have a lack
Have
of
to
2
have
access.
2 access.
No, you would
no, because it's
not.
only 11.
Because it would
Because it's
just
only
be
11,
a
it won't, you have 20 or 22, and you have 11. So you're fine that way. And technically, you could still make it connect, I guess, but, I don't see why we are, if there are other options and it's been discussed, tonight that there are other options that are more expensive, we are bound to the lesser expensive option. Well, not at this moment, but,
Mr. Davis is correct. We're outside of public comment right now. It's
I'm
committee
just basing it
discussion,
off of
Doctor.
the
That's-
last 2 hours and 15 minutes. We've been sitting here listening to all this, that it seems like that was pursued and abandoned because of cost. And that, I guess my question is why do we have to accept this as the only way? If there is an alternative, a bit more expensive, maybe very expensive, but
Maybe prohibitively expensive.
maybe it won't work, and maybe it just is not feasible. That is a possibility that it will not work.
Well, and
The
maybe-
development won't work as
Right.
is, and then maybe it'll be 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road or something will be developed here. But it's possible that this is not possible.
Right, and it could be that since he doesn't own that land, it's been cost prohibitive, so there's a lot of maybes. But my question is, by law, does he have a use by right to put a street on that little strip of property that he already owns?
I don't think you can deny someone access to
You
that
cannot.
property.
I believe you're correct.
That's not answering my question, because I get what you just said, you can't deny them access to property they already own. But he has a piece of property that he owns and he wants to put a street on it. He can do that by right, is that correct?
That would be my understanding.
Yes.
And so from that standpoint, are we legally bound to grant that access, because that's his property already? Be different if it wasn't his property and we were trying to do eminent domain or something, but it's
Yeah.
already his property. And by law, are we required to say,
I'm sorry.
It's obvious that the site plan's not ready to be reviewed by the committee, and I would suggest that you lay it on the table.
Thank you, Counselor.
Now I'll make a motion, we table it.
Well, does anybody else on the committee wish to make any remarks?
Let's make clear, is this for both applications, the zoning and the site plan?
No, we have
No,
voted
just-
on
Already
we have
voted.
voted on the
Voted and
zoning.
approved the zoning.
The zoning
Just
has
wanted
been
to
approved.
clarify that.
That's official action of this committee. The next action will be whether or not to table the pending subdivision. And we have a motion.
Motion.
wait, before we do that, there were gonna be some things that I wanted to talk about with sidewalks and their contribution to, whether they're going to be sidewalks, which don't really make sense, so contributions to the sidewalk fund. Were there gonna be curb and gutters in that requirement? The tree preservation, I'm still a little out there in left field on that one, because, trees have been taken down. We're trying to promote and maintain our canopy, tree canopy, so what requirements can and should be imposed, especially since there's been some work done on the property without proper permitting. So how do we address that? The mailbox location, which of course is gonna be on the site plan. Is there some requirement that we would apply to this that would say you have to maintain a separate construction entrance, if that whole thing is approved, for a minimum of 2 years? And then the landscaping buffer, between Pecan Grove 1 and 2 versus 3. So those were some of the things that I was going to ask about for discussion. We don't have to talk about them now, but those are gonna be some things that I would ask.
Please
Think-
keep a list of that.
It's on the record
Leslie,
now.
Please,
Yes.
for us to address when this comes back before us. Anyone else? We have a motion on the floor
I'll
to
second.
table this matter. Ms. Mart is seconding. All in favor of tabling this matter? Any opposed? It's unanimous. MAJ sub 25-01 is tabled until a later date pending a a final plat.
I would request the planning committee provide a list of things that you would like to be addressed, and then once we have that list, the staff will get with Dr. Hutchinson to allow him to address those.
Yeah.
concerns.
Leslie, you've got to start on the list, and we'll circulate and get those points to staff. If you don't mind,
Agreed.
Leslie, that'd be okay?
Yep, I'll just email them
All right.
right now.
With respect to the two matters, because we did not discuss next steps for either the rezoning or the subdivision, Mr. Newman, would you please advise the attendees what next steps are?
Yeah, so as far as the rezoning, again, if you received a notification for this hearing, you will receive a notification for the public hearing for the city council. As far as the subdivision application being tabled, once we have that information from the planning committee that they would specifically like addressed, staff will get with Dr. Hutchinson to provide that list, and then we will take it from there.
All right. With respect to the zoning, there will be a subsequent meeting
There will be a subsequent public hearing before city council.
before city council that the public is invited to attend
That's
with
correct.
respect to that issue.
Yep.
All right, that ends MAJ sub 25-01. The next item on our agenda, item TA 25-01, proposed amendments to chapters 2, 4, 5, and 11 of the Tupelo Development Code to provide.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just one point of order. Due to the lateness of the evening and the weighty matters of the next two agenda items, is this council better suited to table those for
Yes.
our next meeting as opposed to pursuing them tonight?
Let me ask a question to staff. I think your point is very well taken. Is there any urgency on the part of the city council, the staff, that we act on these matters at this meeting?
So I would, on matter, the text amendment, we do have a public hearing that was scheduled for tonight, it's advertised, so I believe we would need to go ahead and conduct the public hearing for TA 2503,
All
which
right.
is amendments to chapter 10 and 12 of the Development Code. I believe we can conduct that hearing and then come back at a later date to vote and have those formal discussions.
All right, and what about TA 25-01? Can that be tabled?
It can, that one, we've already held the public hearing, so this is just a matter of updating the planning committee on amendments or changes that we've recommended after that public hearing.
All right, so if we could, I guess, a motion to table TA 25-01 to a later meeting. Do we have a motion?
I know that we tabled that.
All right,
To
Ms.
TA
Hadley,
21.
Mr. Willing? All right. TA 25-01 is tabled until a later date. We'll now take up TA 25-03, since this is a public hearing on that matter. TA 25-03, proposed amendments to chapters 10 and 12 of the Tupelo Development Code concerning billboards. Mr. Newman or Mr. Faulkner, would you please present the text amendments? I believe those have been provided.
Before we move on for him to do that, can I make one comment about TA 25-01, even though we've tabled it? I just have a comment.
Of course you can.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I have not seen any revisions to the definitions in chapter 2. In particular, looking for the definitions that define microbrewery, native wineries, not pub crawl, what's it? Yeah, all of those. I just haven't seen any changes to the definitions.
We did not change the definition. The state, as I understand it, the state statute that defines all these things includes native winery and meadery in the same classification.
Okay,
And they control who gets to be one of those. That's not our decision.
okay,
So we felt that it would be okay to just include the word native winery with the word meadery.
okay. Yeah, and I love that, and thank you for adding that. Love that. I just wanted to make sure that there was some reference either in our code to what those things are, or just say, when we get to those particular chapters, refer to Mississippi State, da-da-da-da, for definition.
With that,
It's in my brain.
No, that's there, but not what it is.
Okay.
We don't know if it's a microbrewery or a brew pub or a brewery. But we're meeting with them this week. They will, it's really two sides to it. It's the liquor side or the spirits, greater than five, they call it 4 or 5 wine.
Right.
And that's over, I think, maybe, Victor, you were on the great, the case back in the nineties, kind of decided what we could do, couldn't do, the Western Connection case.
I was adjacent.
Okay.
I was adjacent to it.
Okay, so you've got that over there, and the equivalent to the brewery would be a distillery. You know, we can put definitions in there of these things as they appear in the state, but at some point, we had to figure out where to put them on the map, what usage ordinance. We're also meeting with media. Beer people will be able to tell us what they're actually gonna do, so we can kind of look at that. They will also tell us why it is the way it is, and explain it. They will have that 3-tier system that we talked about before. They know it, I just kind of heard about it, you know, I've stayed from Holiday Inn, but, they can explain that to us, as can the metery guy, because he has a license to make any kind of spirits that there are, everything from hand washing, or hand sanitizer, all the way to vodka. So, we'll get skinny on that this week and can update that. Didn't mean to interrupt that.
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
I think the changes that are proposed to chapters 10 and 12 are fairly extensive in volume. I mean, there's a lot of new language in both of those, and it may be beyond the scope of what we need to sit through tonight, but I would like to kind of go over them with you, and then you can make a decision of whether you feel comfortable with acting on them. We do have some relatively small changes to make to 4, 5, and 11, but you know we've tabled that. So with the sign regulations, I'll just run through those fairly quickly. The first change is in 10.1.4, and that is simply to require that when they apply for a sign permit, they give us the CO for the business. That's already required. And also a site plan that shows everything we need to know about the sign in order to determine if it's approvable. How far it is from other signs, for example, how wide the building is, all these things that our staff review requires in order to make an approval of this sign.
Is that always saying that so this is not billboards?
No.
Okay, thank you.
We'll get to them. On page 4 of this text, there's some expanded language about an abandoned sign. We had a definition of an abandoned sign. This one has added some language about that's been blank for 60 days or more, or it's an electronic sign that can't put a display up anymore, or a temporary sign that's expired. So those are just more things that qualify it as an abandoned sign. Okay. On page 8, you see a little addition to standard for sign area measurement. It just says billboards are covered somewhere else. There's a whole another section about billboards. They're not included in this particular paragraph. Then you see a highlight there of 922. That's just correcting a typo. The code did say 9.2.2. It's actually 9.22.
All right, hold on a second. Go back to page 8.
Okay. Now, page 10 has some
Gotcha.
new restrictions about where signs can be placed in relationship to property lines or, property lines and site visibility. And then there's a provision that says if a sign is coming in for a variance for a height greater than 100 feet, then the chief building inspector's got to review that for a potential hazard. And then if they're being built out of combustible material, those would also require the building inspector's approval. Page 12, we have a restriction on how much signage you can have in a window. What's visible from a window. And right now, it includes anything that's within 12 inches of that window is considered visible through the window. We're just expanding that to 24 inches because a lighted sign, that's 24 inches back is still going to be pretty visible.
Can we back up to number 9 for a minute, being that I'm in construction? So are you telling me I can't put up a plywood sign without having a permit for that sign? Is that what that is saying?
I think that what this is referring to a permanent sign. When it says permitted for construction, they don't anticipate just something you go out there and stick in the yard.
All right, well, that's also gonna apply, typically, we're gonna do a sign out of plywood, 4x8 sheet of plywood that's been
But we
painted and
don't
lettered. and-
permit, construction signs. This is saying any sign that does require a permit cannot be made out of, combustible material.
Okay, but it says for construction.
Right, it will not be permitted to be constructed as opposed to applying to construction sites.
Yeah, I see where you're
You see
getting
where I'm
the
going?
verbiage, yes.
You're,
but-
you're reading it as someone who
Like
works in
somebody
construction.
for
It's-
construction,
it's-
yeah.
it's- I think its plain meaning is that they will not permit it to be built
To be
out of a
constructed.
out of a combustible
Well, then it
material.
should say be built out of. I mean, I'm just saying, it can be misconstrued that that is a construction sign.
We'll make a note of that. If you look at,
I'm just saying.
if you look up the page where it says, on item number 2, signs shall be constructed of permanent materials, permanently fixed to the ground, except for those signs that by their nature are considered temporary.
Which one was that? I'm sorry, Pat?
Number
Sub
2
two.
at the top.
Thank you.
Sub 2 mean.
That takes care of your construction sign.
Okay, thank you. Scott, I would think that maybe you would feel like that.
Press on, Mr.
I'm
Faulkner.
just ready to,
I know you're ready to
You've got
go.
our rapt attention.
Right, that item did say convenient sign. We just added that one word, public convenience, just to make it clear who that's, you see, if you turn over the next page,
very bottom of 11.
Okay.
it says, on-premise sign giving information or direction for the convenience and necessity of the public. So it's intended, for something that people need to see in order to get where they need to go. Directional type signage. All right. On page 18, we're starting to get into the changes that affect billboards. It had an exclusion here of a billboard could be located on property with an existing freestanding sign. That's been taken out. We're going to eliminate that possibility of a billboard on a property that already has a sign. And that kind of helps me introduce the overall intent of these changes for billboards. Billboards are designed for highway traffic, for being read at 55 miles an hour or greater. We've inherited some from the days when Gloucester and Maine were the main highways. And that's going to be changing. We're going to change that look so that a billboard is appropriate on a highway but not inside the city on other type streets. And so one way we're doing that is by taking away this option that they can be put close to a freestanding sign, because a billboard sign of its size, it dwarfs anybody else's standard business sign, competes with it unfairly, and we're going to be working our way to try to get away from that. If you see it over to page 21, this is going to be one that will probably generate some comment. Billboards will no longer be allowed in mixed-use commercial corridor or mixed-use employment zones. It only in agriculture, open space, and industrial zones. So
Wow.
that's going to take away a lot of the potential locations for billboards.
So for example, the sign that is by UPS store, not allowed, by the old Jim Beans, would
Right.
not be allowed.
Right.
But the one by,
Crosstown?
at Crosstown, that
Crosstown?
wouldn't be allowed?
Correct.
Okay.
In the future.
In the future.
Well, let me take that back, and I'll keep rolling.
Okay.
Keep
Keep rolling, and we'll come back to
Yeah.
another
Thank you.
wrinkle that
Yeah.
we've handled with over the last couple of months.
We're at the bottom of the page 21, you see 25 feet. We're going to restrict the height from 35 back down to 25, excepting those billboards regulated by Mississippi Code 1972 sections, go ahead, blah, 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 49, what. Those are the ones that MDOT controls. And so we can't overrule them. Their standards are going to control some areas. And that's what you're referring to? Yeah. But page 22, you go on down to that second item under C. The separation distance was 1,500 feet, going to 1,750. Again, we're squeezing down on the number of places where these things can show up. And they have to be separated from a freestanding sign 500 feet. So again, competition. The business that's here on the ground with the sign, 20 foot high, whatever square feet, 80 square feet, doesn't have to compete with a billboard.
So like cardiology with the Gloucester Creek Village, that's what sign you're talking about there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 3 tells you about the billboards on those MDOT regulated streets. There's a 500-foot separation that's based on that MDOT.
So is Gloucester and McCullough included in that, since they're old highways?
They are now.
Yeah, they are now.
So that's part of what MDOT has a say over. Or they don't have they do have a say over it?
Used to just be the highways. Before that, it used to be any state-controlled highway, road.
Mr. Chairman,
As they built 78,
Endings in mind.
45, changed up.
Oh, we need you on the mic, I think, since you're actually explaining a little bit.
Thank you.
All right, MDOT, they had all the controlled roads, the state-controlled roads, and Kelly's gone. He could help me out here.
He's saying that you can use the handheld and sit down.
No, I'm fine. I'm fairly hale still. No, but after a while, once they built the I-22, 78 McCullough kind of went out of the picture. Not for all aspects, but for some. Highway 6 kind of, it's 78 over here, 6 over there. So about last fall, the Federal Highway Administration went back in and required MDOT to pick back up those state-controlled roads. So now they, for purposes of outdoor advertising. So I guess the outdoor advertisers in the world felt like localities were squeezing them out, and so by asking MDOT to do it, you know, we couldn't be onerous on them, but MDOT's not going to just let them get away with anything. So Gloucester pretty much from city limits to city limits. Main Street from, the western city limits to about, I'm not sure if it's the city limits or Tulip Creek, but it's out there. And then the highways, and McCullough Boulevard, it picks up at 45 and goes to the city limits. Highway 6, as it comes in, or 76, from city limits to 45. So MDOT will be able to, on those roads, there is a provision in there that we can do more restrictively on some of those. We'll be looking at that, but some signs, if those regulations had been in effect and continued to be in effect until they picked them up last fall, like the ones at Crosstown, they wouldn't have a digital sign there, and they wouldn't have two signs there, Mama Justice and the one over by Kroger or Burger King. So we've got to kind of overlay that. We've got the maps in today, and so there'll be something there. But I think Pat will tell you a little bit about our biggest problem is getting rid of the old ones. I'll give you an example. The old one, the sign at Crosstown was built. They were gonna have it, over on top of the roof. We said, no, you can't do that. So what they did was they just built it behind it, and then kind of, it's not over the roof, but it's behind the roof. And now that the little building that it was over is out of the way, it looks awful out there. It's just a billboard in the middle of a area about this big. And MDOT has come back through and inventoried those, that billboard and every billboard in town based on the change last fall, and it is called grandfathered enhanced, GFH or GFE, which means it's a non-conforming sign. And we can't do anything about it as long as it's used as a billboard. But under both the state and our ordinance, they can't make any changes to it, they can't raise it, they can't light it, they can do what's routine maintenance to it. If it falls over, they can't stand it back up, that sort of thing. So we've got some common sense type help from some of these MDOT regulations, and they're taking over some more jurisdiction, but we're still gonna have some signs. And Pat will explain kind of what we discussed, what way the mayor wants to do that.
Will they be allowed to upgrade?
What do you mean by upgrade?
So the signs that have the digital billboards on now, we know technology is changing, and they'll probably come up with something that is much more effective for whatever they're gonna do. So they may wanna change the guts out of those controllers.
Or the software,
It's kind of like putting a new, roll-on poster on there. There will be something there that will trigger being more than just doing that. Even as technology advances, it'll be an
Be
equivalent.
like changing the engine, kinda like
Right.
changing the engine out of a car. Is that too much?
Like taking the whole thing off and putting a HD, triple D, GTV on it or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Thank you. All right, Pat?
Well, you see down there 4, 5, and 6, those are new restrictions. No billboard closer than 100 feet to the closest point of any structure. No billboard located closer than 100 feet to any zoning boundary. No billboard located closer than 200 feet to any residential use regardless of zone. And if closer than 500 feet, must be oriented so that it's not visible to that residential structure.
We're not adding any kind of dark sky kind of regulations, are we? Bummer.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother thing. But we are adding, just below under other restrictions, the supporting structure of the billboard shall be completely enclosed with the masonry cladding.
Oh. No more pipes in the ground.
Okay, going over to page 24, we have had a provision that allowed people to replace a billboard with not with a electronic display board by getting rid of 2 old style billboards. We're going to say now that a non-conforming billboard not going to qualify for that replacement. It's just going to stay non-conforming and unimproved. A replacement may not occur if the applicant does not own 2 billboards to be removed. Kind of a obvious thing, but we made it explicit. And if they want to put up a billboard, an electronic billboard, and that does not meet the requirements for that sign, then we're not going to let them do it. Okay, I think that's all in the sign ordinance.
I'm sure that's been a big challenge. Thank you for sticking with that, all of y'all, because I know that's just been a big deal.
Well, I'm gonna say that's the mayor.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, chapter 12,
Chapter 12.
we didn't print the whole chapter out, but the changes we're proposing are in the section 1210, which has to do with subdivisions. And really, to be honest, these are changes that are not, the public's not ever gonna know about. These are changes that only affect how we process an application. It clarifies the language about what's a minor subdivision, but it's basically still a small number and no public infrastructure. We did have to add that requirement about the cluster mailbox and are adding a tree protection plan that we don't have now.
Very
On,
good.
on the cluster mailbox, should we require a pull-off for that that's out of the roadway?
I believe that is a postal service requirement. It's not our code, but they've got to get that approval from the postal service.
Can't we include that if we know that it is a postal? I mean, it just gets confusing, I think, sometimes.
Say require a parking spot,
Or
require a
just
parking
Not
a
spot.
necessarily a parking spot,
Just
but
a
if you
pull-off.
have your road and you would have just, I mean, I guess it would be a parking spot, just for, because otherwise, there's a possibility of somebody pulling up to check their mail and traffic coming out, because they're gonna be in the front of the neighborhood and then possibly not being able to get around. They're just having a chance of something being rear-ended. It just seems to be easier. And the postal service, who's gonna have to load up a bunch of mailboxes, they could pull off. I don't see why that would be a negative to require a one-car pull-off
Yeah.
to the
One or two,
sign.
yeah, I agree, it's a valid point.
Well, and then the other thing, you made the comment that it's right there at the road. You know, those damn things are ugly. I'm just
But
saying.
I think though, that's the
not-
postal
it's in the
service,
minutes, it's just
but the
damn
whole
ugly.
point is for the postal service not to have to drive around the neighborhood. So that, I bet they want it to be.
Maybe
Right.
a little
Mandated it. It is
landscaping.
now
It-
federally mandated.
So that's, we can't change where it is, but we
Can
can,
we mandate landscaping?
I don't know.
I don't think we can
You
go there.
can't
It's,
make the
it's
federal
almost
government do
9 o'clock.
that.
I'm not getting into all that. I don't know.
Yeah. Just ugly. Thank you for putting the cheap protection in there. And are we putting that now
Do it
in
for a
there too
living.
for
It's really
residential?
hard.
Yeah. This is an application to all preliminary plats. The rest of these changes are just about internal process. It says how long a plat remains valid. It tells you if you have a CO for one phase, that doesn't extend the whole plat. You've got to keep moving on it. We've got a lot of things like, say, parcel numbers, lot deeds, 911 addressing cannot occur without approval of the plat and agreement by the city of Tupelo City Council. So we've got a lot of moving internal parts of the development agreement that has to happen. And then there's inspections of the work that's being done, acceptance of the inspection. And then once things are accepted, we release their security, and it specifies how all that flows. It does change the amount of security. There was more or less of a cap of $100,000. Given the way that construction costs have changed, everybody's going to be over that cap. And we're going to do it based on the estimated cost. Developers are not going to be real happy with that, but it was going to be too much of a risk for the city if you had a $800,000 set of infrastructure to build and only $100,000 security for it.
All right.
What page are you on now? I'm sorry, I was reading.
5 of 12.
I'm kind of spinning my way through this without going on every single chain because, like I say, they're procedural.
Feel like you've hit all the high points, Mr. Faulkner?
Yeah.
Is there anything about time, durations for reviews and that sort of thing? So once a plan has been submitted, how long does it take before it is returned, that sort of thing?
Oh, no.
From a general contractor, that can be a challenge.
Too many variables I think, for the city to make a commitment on that. And it's always the case of, well, you won't do this, so we can't do that.
Mr. Faulkner, since you are up, are there any other questions for Mr. Faulkner on these text amendments?
So all we're supposed to do right now is just kind of read through them, and then we'll talk about them another time, right?
You're anticipating my question to Mr. Faulkner. Mr. Faulkner, what does the staff recommend with respect to action once the public hearing portion of this is concluded? Is the recommendation approval, tabling? How does the staff feel about what we should do with these text amendments presently?
I mean, I think we've already had a motion on the table. Did we take a vote on the tabling?
We tabled 2501, that's
Okay.
been tabled. We had to move forward with 2503 because we did announce a public hearing. And I'm gonna ask for public comment just as soon as Pat's done.
I'll leave that up to the committee as far as what you're comfortable with.
Did we have this already?
Most of it, yes.
All right, is that it from,
I don't, I think Ben
Pat,
has a
anything
question.
else you want to add?
I think Ben has a question.
oh, yes, Ben, I'm sorry.
2503 is what?
Billboards and subdivisions,
Yes,
Pat just went through.
And the others,
10 and 12 and the others were tabled. 4, et cetera, are tabled.
Does anybody feel like they need more time to read through these a little more comprehensively?
Let me go ahead and close the public portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here, since we promised the public a hearing, is there anyone here to speak for or against this application, these text amendments? Please state your name and address when you come to the podium. Going once, going twice. Hearing none, this closes the public portion of our hearing. And we are now open for committee discussion.
I would like to see require the 2 parallel parking spots by the mailbox to be added. I think that's a good thing. I don't see any negative to that. It won't cost hardly anything. I mean, it would cost something, but minor, and just help ingress and egress.
I think that's a good idea.
It's reasonable.
All right. Do we have a motion on Scott's suggestion? I guess do we move
Well,
on it and
I'll
suggest it
move
to
on
the-
to approving everything under TA 2503 with that.
with that caveat,
Yes.
okay? We have a motion to approve TA 25-03 text amendments to chapters 10 and 12 as stated in documentation provided to us. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor with with the caveat that a designated parking type area will be set at these mailboxes.
Parallel parking, nothing big, just, you know,
Alright.
2 spots or so.
All right, all in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a point, item TA 2501. The planning committee recommended approval at last month's meeting, and the agenda item tonight was merely an update on a few changes that were made, have been made since then. So that was not necessarily a voting matter or a public hearing, because we've already held that. And they were minimal changes, so I don't know that we hold them up now that we've gone this far. Pat, I guess, what would be the consensus of the committee to hear those changes? I know you've been provided those changes, but the committee's already taken the action required of the committee on that item.
If the matter's already been approved, I'm comfortable with the changes as stated by Mr. Faulkner, rolling through. I think we tabled it for purposes of.
So can we pull it off the table and read
I
it?
think so.
So I make a motion that we pull TA 25-01 off the table and discuss.
Yeah.
Do we have a second? All right. All in favor?
Well, I think that's a good move, because these changes are pretty minimal. You see this, I think it's the third sheet in the package. That's it. Basically, what we've done is made one change in chapter 4, or 2 changes in chapter 4. One of them is to restrict convenience stores with fuel sales to streets that are either classified as arterial or that are under the jurisdiction of MDOT. That means Maine, Gloucester, 78, 45, those streets. That means a convenience store with fuel sales cannot go on a side street like West Jackson Extended. They should be on the street that has the capacity to handle the traffic, period. It also has a requirement that they be separated by 1,500 feet from another one. So you can't have one on every corner. That one may get some pushback, but I don't think that, you know, the city's suffering from lack of convenience stores.
No gas
So
station off the common.
So does that, in other words, the convenience store that's there on the corner of Ida and Lawndale, that would no longer be allowed?
Right. Correct. Those are the ones that are typically not maintained all that well, and some of them generate nuisance activity in the neighborhoods. That's just not appropriate.
Okay.
The meadery, we've amended that so that it says meadery or native winery.
Thank
So
you.
anywhere in chapter 4 that we were approving a meadery, native winery's good there. Same in chapter 5 in downtown, same locations. One other change in chapter 4 was the billboard replacement option goes away in those mixed-use commercial corridor or mixed-use employment. That was mentioned in chapter 10, and we're covered in chapter 4 as well. And the last change is chapter 11. When we discussed this before, we established that we needed to do zoning locations for liquor stores now, that since the state doesn't, or allows us to control that. Well, we're going back to add a requirement there for a 1,500-foot separation.
So no more Lavino versus Oscars?
That's it.
I make a motion that we, sorry.
Do we, no, that's perfect. We don't need to take any action. This has already been approved at the prior meeting.
Then,
No, this particular set
These
of
are new.
language, y'all have not approved.
Right.
You
All right.
approved the overall amendment. This is sort of an amendment to the amendment.
Can we have a motion then if we want to?
Do we have to open it up for discussion first?
Well,
just being,
Just go ahead.
we do.
Have a motion, get a motion, it's
I
already.
make a motion that we approve as written.
Second.
Seconded, motion by, and we'll give Mr. Washington the second.
That'll work.
All right, all in favor? The amendments are approved.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Well, I think we've got,
Oh, come on,
Everybody
man.
let me in. I suffered through a lot tonight. Thank you. I'm getting paid, Tanner's getting paid, Pat's getting paid, go good.
I think you need to buy us all a drink tonight.
I'm gonna go get one as soon as I walk out of here.
On some of these, we're gonna discuss it in-house, and although they are part of 2501, 2502, 2503, we may split the ordinances up, okay? So it'd be 2501-A, all right? Some of these things are fraught with a little peril in going forward with them. You know, Lamar Signs was not here tonight, but I just got through pulling up a deed where we bought a sign out on I-22 that was too close to our overpass going over it, or the northern loop going over I-22. How much did that Lamar sign out there that in the middle of this field cost the city? $150,000.
Holy gosh.
Okay, now we gotta tear it down 10 years later, cause it kinda fell through the cracks, but we did pay for it. We bought another one up the road, so I figure we paid at least that much for that. So, when you talk about going after these billboards, you got a strong lobby on them, and they will sue you. We'd like to get rid of most, if not all of them, except for the inlet, comes into play. Same thing with liquor stores. The law's been one way for a long time. And just one little sentence in a piece of legislation before the legislature changed it to allow us to put 1,500 feet on it. So, we did the same thing with the downtown ordinances, because there were some things we really needed. And we didn't want them to get hung up with one totally different subject, and get appealed. Now, we won't have as many as, I think we had, 10 or 30 of them, 29? Before. Ask them all, no appeals, could have been some omnibus piece of an ordinance. But we'll look at these and we'll leave the ones that are fairly tame in there. And that we don't anticipate an appeal. But like what y'all did earlier on the rezoning, you can probably anticipate an appeal there. Before we can take it to city council for that, we probably need to add, more evidence that the neighborhood has changed. Because it requires a clear and convincing standard of proof that the neighborhood has changed. So that it's not just spot zoning, because we need this thing or that thing.
I felt that was what you were kind
That's
of
what I
alluding
was
to.
trying
That
to-
was your
that
concern,
was
and I
my-
didn't want to say spot zoning because,
Well, I didn't know if it was spot zoning, but I wanted to, my point was, irregardless of what this drawing was, should that be rezoned? And my gathering from the department was that it should be.
highest and best
Yeah.
use.
And so I was deferring to that recommendation and not thinking through this lens that we're rezoning it for this, but rezoning it because there's no access commercially.
Right.
If it's true that the trace entrance, or their, whatever law won't let you go that, far down, and, MDOT won't let you, then there's no access, commercially from McCullough. Not to get all that, but that was my point, was trying to separate the two.
So, Pat stated the purpose, you have to have a public necessity for it. And that public necessity is, just what you said, you can't develop it probably for anything else. Plus, we need to develop more residential houses, we're running out of places to put them. We need just a little bit more on that as well, as from a proof standpoint. But clear and convincing evidence of serious things, like the last one that got out of hand with the apartments out there, I had to tell them, you can vote against it, but just don't be the majority vote, okay?
Hey, Mr.
I
Chairman,
don't wanna get sued.
Th-
Counselor, we need to adjourn, for the
Yeah.
night, and we will continue these,
Thank you, Counselor.
internally.
Yeah, we need to just,
I make a
talk
motion
about
to
that
adjourn.
internally.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we got one more thing. Do we have any business or applications for the next meeting?
We believe we will, so let's,
Work
proceed.
session on the 29th. Next meeting October 6th. Am I correct?
Work session on the 29th.
Monday the 29th at 5:15 on the third floor.
And I will not be here for that.
All right, our meeting to follow at 6 PM on October 6th on the second floor. Thank you, everyone, for being here and cooperating. Do we have a motion?
You do.
I make a motion.
I second.
Somebody.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in
I
favor?
don't think I've ever been here
Aye,
this
aye.
long.
It's been a while.
Thank you, everybody. That was a lovely meeting.
Man, you did a fantastic
It's been a long time since we